In 1996, author David Foster Wallace released his magnum opus, Infinite Jest, an 1,100-page postmodern takedown of the great American novel. It was a smash success all throughout the world. Unfortunately, it just wasn't very good. Famously dense and nigh unfinishable, the book earned a backlash as great as its praise. Join me, Jesse Draham, as we untangle this tale of boredom, addiction, and French-Canadian separatists in our quest of understanding on the I Hate Infinite Jest podcast. Okay, here we are. You are listening to the prologue of the Infinite Jest podcast. My name is Jesse Draham. I am a comedian, I am a literature fan, and I will be your host as we go through this book, which I do not like very, very much, but a lot of people like very, very much. Spice of life, different things. Live and let live, probably. Now, if you listen to the original run of this, you might recall this is not the actual original prologue. I am re-recording this because after promoting several episodes, a few fans from the David Foster Wallace and Infinite Jest subreddits thought I came off as a grating asshole, and I looked back, and guess what? They were right. Yeah. A broken lip bro is still right twice a day. I apparently made a suicide joke, which I really don't remember or recall. I wouldn't put it past myself. But that's not what I'm trying to do with this. So let's re-meet each other. Hi, I'm Jesse Draham. I'm about to shit on a book you love. How you doing? Love the bandana. I don't want this to be a hate podcast. I really don't. That is, however, its birthplace. I do not like this book. So that is its birthplace, its hometown, where it goes on summer break. But I've evolved past hating Infinite Jest. So while I will be expressing my frustrations with the book, and I will sometimes be hyperbolic and criticism for humor's sake, I intend to be fair and respectful. Least of all because my guests, who are fans of the book, are people that I have great respect for. So, if you have downloaded this, you might wonder why. Why would you hate something enough to dedicate the better part of a year to reading it in small chunks and discussing said chunks, which you hate, with people who think, this is pretty good? Well, I need to get into my background here. There's a few things. What you need to know about myself, Jesse Draham, I come from a background of pure, uncut, unstepped on white trash. If you are in the future, please know this is being recorded during the 2020 COVID quarantine. As I record this, in lockdown, whole world's locked down, a gym in my hometown, Belmar, New Jersey, is opening, despite governor's orders, because they think closing their business due to pandemic is the peak of tyranny. They want to get in that gym, and they want to get swole, so they are too buff to be ever fit through a cattle car door, goddammit. And my wonderful hometown of Belmar showed up to support them in force. Because it's just that kind of place. Just small town ignorance where people don't age mentally past 17 and don't evolve beyond the toddler's simplistic mentality of, fuck you, that's mine. Through random genetic mutation, as happens in all cloistering suburbs, I just lucked out and became the artsy dork in this town that loved Vonnegut and Tom Waits and Japanese cinema and 19th century Russian literature, while my family hadn't listened to a new artist since Springsteen. So, I have been an odd duck. Honestly, this comes to another thing I hate. I hate that small town mindset because I lost my father, and just in the last year, my stepfather, to that same small-town mentality. Very intelligent and capable men who, by virtue of their birth, were never taught to aspire beyond the next fuck or the next fist fight or the next case of beer. I hate that small-town mindset because I've seen it kill people I love because no man in my family has ever made it to fucking 50. Where am I going with all this? Well, that my artsy rebellion has led me to challenge myself with the art I consume. However, these same humble origins have set a definite glass ceiling of just what I can appreciate. And in this case, that glass ceiling is an 1,100-page book called Infinite Jest, a very dense novel that, as far as I can tell, so far at the beginning, is mostly about a mentally disturbed boy describing furniture with mechanical detail for hundreds of pages. David Foster Wallace was the son of a philosophy professor, a professor in his own right, raised in the upper class in academia and tennis academies. We could not have more disparate backgrounds. Well, you know, we could. I could have been born in the fucking Congo, but you get what I'm going here. He is exactly the type of friend I would have strived to make in hopes of enlightenment and then smashed in the face at the first snide, derisive comment about me being one of the poors. I tried reading this novel at the age of 23, and I hated every word, every sentence. I made it 400 pages in. 400 pages in 1100, that's pretty good. That's 4/11ths, I'll say, because fractions are easier to fake than percentages. 400 pages of Canadian farting habits and first draft philosophy observation that had already been observed far better. A weird couple of pages where he puts on verbal blackface and speaks in Ebonics, and overall an intensely boring experience. Now, I have to assure you, book lover, it's not that it was long. I had already read similarly length novels. Count of Monte Cristo, Les Miserables. As a white trash suburban teenager, I read Atlas Shrugged, which poisoned my brain for about a year and a half before actual life experience taught me what an idiot both I and Ayn Rand had been. It was just painful reading Infinite Jest and reading a man using every $10 word he'd ever learned, using it to say and express nothing. Now, many fans of the book might think, why do you care then? Why can't you just not like it? Are you maybe too dumb, uneducated, pasty pale garbage to understand? To which I answer in order, because I do, because I can't, and probably, but fuck you for saying it, lip bro straw man. I was so annoyed because everything I'd read leading up to this about this novel is that it would be an amazing experience. People talk this book up so much as the great deconstructor of the American novel. My new favorite book reads some jerk-off who could never write anything good himself. The reviews were carnival barkers on the midway, ushering me in with a walking cane at my back. Step on in, son, assuring me delights and wonders as I could only imagined, only to enter the big top tent to find a bearded lady in Groucho glasses and Siamese twins attached at the belt loop. I felt like a fucking rube for reading those 400 pages. I thought, who the fuck could actually like this? How is this middle school motif and fucking metaphor of, oh, Hal's actually quite brilliant, but the world simply can't understand his genius. Doesn't that make you sad, English major? He's just like you. How did it fool so many people? So I embarked on a journey of informing the world that this pale king had no clothes. And I met some great people, and I had great conversations with them about why they loved the book, and I was pretty much a condescending asshole to them, because, again, insecure about background, and, cruelty is inherent to young men. Oh, look, I also put something witty and whimsical into a speech, if only it hadn't been stated in every great novel for the last 300 fucking years. Oh well, maybe someone will find me a genius. But I matured, I mellowed, and I still would talk with people who loved this book, who were very, very gracious to me in that they did want me to get it. And they did admit the foibles. That's one of the big things. Unfortunately, there is a whole stereotype of David Foster Wallace fanboys. It did not fall out of the sky by a bunch of people who just hated a book they were too dumb to get, I mean, actually, hating this book has gotten me pretty big things in my life. Me and my, girlfriend that I've been with for a year now and fully intend on marrying. One of the big reasons we met, because in her OkCupid profile, she put a bunch of cutesy stuff as girls do. Like, I like good bourbon and David Bowie and dancing around in my apartment in my underpants. But she also mentioned, if you love Infinite Jest, or you're going to insist that I read it, sorry, this is not going to work out. And I messaged back, listen, I liked all those other things you put, but when you shit on Infinite Jest, I wish I could have popped out of that phone and kissed you because I hate that fucking book. So, if anything, it's strange that I'm doing this now and trying to tackle this book with an objective eye when I am clearly at the peak of my life, thanks in part to hating this book. If I had messaged her and said, I fucking love David Foster Wallace, then I would have had way less bourbon and underwear dancing in my life, and that truly is the worst of all possible worlds. But I wanted to get back into it. It had come up again recently. The guests I'm going to have on the first few episodes, Dan Ostroff, Steve Clark, Katsu King. These were people I argued about the book with. And while we were all in quarantine, it came up like, actually, I'd always wanted to do a podcast going through that book I hated. And they pointed out, well, it's quarantine. What the fuck else do you have better to do? And here we are. So, here is the game plan for the next 40 or so weeks. It's, if I die somewhere in there, I have been assured my good friend Neil Wood will take up the podcast for me, and I apologize if that happens. But what we're going to do is we're going through Infinite Jest, and we're going to go through roughly 30 pages every week. As a fan of this book, you know that the chapter lengths aren't really, I'm pretty sure Year of the Adult Penned Undergarment is the same chapter for like 5 chapters in a row. So we're not going to stop in the middle. Some of them will go here and there. We're going to go in 30-page chunks. We're going to write up summaries. Well, I'm writing up a summary of what happens. And I will be bringing on a guest every single week to discuss why they love the book, what they're getting out of it, what is my dumb, homunculus, Aerosmith-loving DNA blocking from getting through the genius into myself. Because I need to know. Remember, this entire journey started with me picking up that book because I was curious, I was excited, I wanted to have my mind expanded and blown, and I don't understand how describing a tennis academy's ventilation system for 8 pages really adds to that. You're going to hear a few phrases come up in this. Detail porn is one that I've been a fan of because this book employs that a lot. Like, hey, did you ever want the design specs on a fictional metaphor for a DVD player? Infinite Jest has fucking got it. Do you want to hear the details on drugs you are too lame to ever try? Guess what? We got that too. And you know what? Hey, you know those annoying little things that hang out at the bottom of the page? Footnotes? Guess what? They're essential, and there are hundreds of them, and they go on and on and on. I'm ready for an epic journey, and I hope you are ready to join me, and I hope I came off a little bit less grating on this new prologue. Shout out to the David Foster Wallace and Infinite Jest subreddits. You are making me a better man already. I'm sorry I was a dick. I will try to avoid... I can't promise I'm going to completely avoid suicide jokes. I will promise I will try to not make them at David Foster Wallace's expense. Because regardless of my opinion of the man, that is something that I'm not going to criticize him for, because God knows it's a horrible thing that affects all people. It even affects people who haven't written terrible books. Okay, that's the last one, I promise. So, again, my name is Jesse Draham, and if I haven't already alienated you yet, I mean, you read through an 1,100-page fucking book of alienation and bashing your head against a verbal wall and checking dictionaries to find out what loxum loquacious means. I think I can be a little grating for a second. I really hope you'll join me, Jesse Draham, and all my guests as your literary Sherpa through a begrudging book club. Book club? Book club. Did I mention I'm from Belmar? On the I Hate Infinite Jest podcast. And we'll be seeing you for the next 40-some weeks. And, yeah. I am in here, and so are you, and we're stuck for a very, very long time.